With that, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Ubario, who is our interim manager here at our Lancaster shelter. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. First of all, I want to say good evening to all you folks that made it out here tonight. My name is Lieutenant Danny Ubario, and I am the interim shelter manager for the Lancaster Animal Shelter. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background, and then I'm going to go through a little bit of what the shelter has been doing, different programs that have come up as of this summer, and then I'll be glad to take any question that you folks might have. Like I said, my name is Danny Ubario. I've been working for the department for 10 years now. And prior to my assignment here at the Lancaster Animal Shelter, I was the interim shelter manager at the Carson Animal Shelter. Prior to that, I worked at the Baldwin Park Animal Shelter. Prior to that, I worked at the Downey Animal Shelter. So I've kind of been transferred around quite a bit throughout the department, which has led me to get to know a lot of different rescues, work with a lot of different people throughout the department and throughout the county, and at different points it has helped to either network animals out of a shelter via rescues, via different agencies within our job, or through different I said shelters already. I would say rescues. Prior to me working for animal control, I was a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years. So if there's anything I would like for you to take away from this meeting is that I know the responsibility of what a shelter, running a shelter or being in the public eye is like. In the Marine Corps, I was a sergeant. I was promoted to sergeant really, really young. So responsibility was placed upon me at a really young age, which even though I was at a young age, I was able to understand the responsibilities that it comes when you have a public mandate like running a shelter. Having said that, I'm going to let you know that, of course, we are the biggest department in the country as far as animal control goes. We roughly impounded last year 93,000 animals, and out of those 93,000 animals, the Lancaster shelter, as of July 08 to May 31st of this year, we have had 20,236 animals at our shelter. Of course, the department operates 6 animal care and control centers. We provide a 24-hour service. What the shelter has been, what's been going on at the shelter lately is I've been there for about 2 months as the interim manager. We've been having sweeps twice a week in the city of Lancaster. These sweeps consist of picking up dangerous, it could be patrols, picking up pit bulls, Rottweilers, any kind of animal that has been a menace to the community. Sergeant Megan Eimers is here from the Aggressive Animal Task Force for the city of Lancaster, and if in the end you have any questions for her, she'll be more than happy to take some questions. And I'm also joined by Sergeant Rachel Montez of the Major Case Unit. She is tasked with handling all our high-level animal cruelty complaints. The department is a public safety agency, and our officers are trained in a program called SEMS, and that is a certification through the federal government, which enables us, it gives us additional training in emergencies via fire, earthquakes, floods. I understand that here in Lancaster, we have very limited amount of, I would say, emergencies. Usually when it's fire season, it's by the Acton area, further down south. However, we are prone to earthquakes, prone to floods. We are prone to floods. So especially at around this time, summer, when it gets really, really busy, we have to make sure that our department and our officers are fully trained in, natural emergencies and all that, whatever that consists of. We have horse trailers. We have other agencies that are mutual aid that help us out during these natural emergencies. Also, our officers they have complete what we call powers of arrest, which is a PC 832. which is conducted at the Rio Hondo Police Academy. We are also, although this is not our program, as you saw the flyers in the back, the department is it partnered up with Petco and a private vet, and what they're doing now is that they're going out to different communities out here in the Antelope Valley, and they are doing a mobile spay and neuter clinic. And what that consists of is you saw the flyers, you give a phone, they have a phone number, and you call, they'll give you an appointment date. And more than likely, they tell you what location they're going to be, if it's feasible for you to drive there. And this is in addition to, or it is to supplement our clinic that we have at our shelter. We will soon be having a satellite adoption center. What this means is that the adoptable animals that are at the Lancaster shelter, if they're either not picked up by the person who was interested in them, or if they're immediately available when they're turned in by their owner, what we will do is that we will transfer these animals to this adoption center, and it's going to be strictly for adoptions. We will still do adoptions at our shelter, but this place, all it will do and all it will handle will be adoptions. So animals from our shelter that have no holds and no commitments to adopt, or any interested parties, will be then transferred to that center. So, the residents can go over there and see what they have, and if you're interested in them, we can adopt it there. Shelter improvements are in the near future. We will be getting a new dog kennel building. We will be getting a new cat building, and we will be getting a new modular barn. In addition, we will be getting a spay and neuter clinic too, a brand new one. There's also talks and negotiations for a new Antelope Valley shelter, and all I know is that it's in negotiations. I don't know where the location is going to be at, but I know that the county is in negotiations with a private party as far as location of the new shelter and everything that entails. I would like to close by letting you folks know that although I've only been here a couple of months, I see the amount of involvement that the community has, and I can honestly tell you that this is probably the only shelter that has this. I've been at other shelters. There's just not that much involvement within the community. And although I am new here, I just want to let you guys know that I'm looking forward to working in partnership with the community to improve the shelter. I know the shelter has a lot of issues, but like I said, I believe that working together with the community, we can accomplish bigger and greater things. So without more to say, if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to take
Lieutenant
questions.
Ubarrio, before we offer questions, period, for the audience, can you go over the general complaint process and also the barking dog complaint process, please?
Okay. Those are two different areas. A general complaint would be like...
A loose dog or...
Okay, a loose dog. The way that the complaint process goes, if you see a loose dog or whatever or your complaint may be, you call the number, and that you talk to an operator. The operator then stores the information in the computer. That call then gets sent via radio to the officer that is working the area, and then the officer responds to whatever the complaint is. If it's a loose dog, he'll go and he'll patrol, or if you request to make contact, the officer will go to your door and make contact. You can tell him, well, I saw him here, or whatever your last observation was. And then from there, either the animal gets picked up, or if it's gone, we'll patrol, see if it's still there. And from there, the animal either gets picked up, or we can set up a 5-day patrol, depending on the situation. And the barking dogs, the way barking dogs work is all barking complaints have to be submitted to our shelter in writing. Once the complaint is received in writing, we will send a letter to the owner saying that they have 7 days to abate the problem, meaning that they have 7 days to correct the problem. If the problem is not corrected, we either get a phone call from the complaining party, and we either send the complaining party and the owner of the dog to mediation. Mediation is a new thing to the department. It is handled through the Department of Consumer Affairs. If that does not work, then we will send you a petition where you basically have to go and gather up your neighbors and tell us, yes, this is the dog that's barking, it's doing A, B, and C. And then we will send out an officer and make contact with the owner. And further than that, we usually, once it gets to that point, we either file it with the DA or the problem gets resolved. Once it goes to the DA, you have to go to a hearing officer where you sit down and the owner of the dog sits down and you basically tell, what's been going on, and from that point on, it's up to the DA or whatever the outcome might be.
I have one more question related to general complaints. Again, situational. If it is a loose dog, what we tell our neighborhood watch participants and any community member, if they call about a certain situation and then they don't know if a deputy has responded, and we tell them, we encourage what we call update calls, call, for example, I'll use loud music. So let's say at 6 o'clock tonight I reported a loud music or a loud party call, but at 7 o'clock the music's louder, so we encourage our residents to call back, give an update to the station. Should residents do the same if they've called, for example, on a loose dog and they don't believe an officer has come and they still see the dog, but now maybe that dog's moved to a different location?
Yes, that's really important. The reason that is important, especially on loose dogs, because I hear there's a lot of open roads. Dogs can run into the open roads, they can get hit, cause an accident. If you have updated information, hey, the dog was on this street, now it's on this street. We always appreciate a call back to let the officer know, hey, don't waste your time going here, go over here where you might encounter the dog. So yes, we do encourage that.
And also, can you talk a little bit about feral cats and what should be done, and also vicious dogs, now that the city has our new vicious dog ordinance?
Okay, feral cats, if you have a problem with feral cats, what we tell the residents is that you have to go and rent a trap. Once you rent the trap, you can give us a call. They'll show you how to set it up. Once the cat goes in the trap, you give us a call and we'll go and pick it up. And the vicious dog, exactly what is it that you want me to...
Just now with our new ordinance, have you had any, or has there been an increase in calls related to vicious dogs since our ordinance has passed, and what the process is for a vicious dog?
Well, Sergeant Eimers can answer that, I'm sure. She's been working on it for a couple of months now. If you want to answer that, Sergeant Eimers.
I'm Sergeant Eimers. I lead the Aggressive Dog Task Force. I do the whole area of the Antelope Valley. Back in September, the City of Lancaster started a pilot program to target animals that are aggressive on the street. We've all noticed that since all the home foreclosures have taken place, we've seen an influx of Rottweilers, German Shepherds, many other numerous breeds that have been loose on the street. The other issue we've been having is, as you well know, the problem with the Section 8 housing. People are coming from different areas. They're bringing their trash, so to say, with them. They're bringing their dogs. They're breeding dogs. They're fighting dogs, and they're just allowing dogs to run amok. Part of the problem that we've had is during the pilot program is we had such an influx on the foreclosure rate that I was actually going from abandoned house to abandoned house and checking these properties, making sure that gangbangers, kids, problem children do not have dogs housed in these backyards, because that was a problem that we did see where parents would say, no, you can't have the pit, so they go 4 houses down the road and they keep it at an abandoned house. A realtor comes on the property or a family comes in to look at a home and they encounter a dog on the property. There's different levels to things that we do with aggressive dogs. In the City of Lancaster, one of the things we do is the Safe Neighborhood Program. Part of the Safe Neighborhood program allows me to go out to properties of dogs that have not committed a crime yet. It could be any type of situation where you feel the fencing may not be tall enough, strong enough. You have a feeling that kids walk by and the dog, you know how he starts to jump and his head's coming over the fence. We want to go out there and nip it in the butt and see if there's anything that we could do to prevent a problem so a child doesn't get hurt, a senior citizen walking down the street, or anybody with a dog doesn't get hurt. A lot of times those calls, when we go out there, we take a full report. We go out there and we inspect the whole property, check for the license, rabies. Now that the City of Lancaster has adopted the microchipping and spay-neuter ordinance for pit bulls and Rottweilers, we have a little bit more to go on with them now. The other thing that we do is any type of community hazard cases. Anytime an animal has committed a crime, it doesn't have to be a pit bull and Rottweiler. The city has targeted that breed specifically at this point now, but I still handle German Shepherds, Akitas, Chows, any type of dominant breeds that are involved. The problems that we've been having is that dogs have gotten out and they've attacked residents, neighbors' dogs, stray dogs on the street, or they've caused people to fall and trip and actually break bones. Part of the problem that we're having is that residents have witnessed these crimes, but they don't want to come forward, they don't want to give me information. If I don't have information, I cannot take it to a district attorney's office. I have to have a statement from that person because a lot of these crimes are either going to be misdemeanor or felony, and those have to be witnessed by either myself or the parties that are involved. So does anybody have any questions?
Is the witness, I'm guessing they're probably not allowed to be anonymous for the court process because they have to be named on your report?
Yeah, they have to be named, and they're going to, at some point, they may have to testify in court. But the problem is that if I don't have cooperation from the public, I can't take care of your problem on the street. And that's been a big issue at this point. I've gotten a lot of good information, a lot of great statements, but when it comes down to letting them know that they're going to be in the report, they may have to go to court, they'll back out. And there's no reason to back out. If you're scared of a dog, you don't have to live in fear in the Antelope Valley because of an animal, or a resident is ignorant and they don't want to keep their dog in. That's no way to live out here. Not at all. So if there's problems, you can call me specifically. I'll leave my phone number. If you know your neighbors had a problem, give me a call. Worst case scenario, I go out there and make sure the property's contained.
Can you also touch for a few minutes on how you work with the Sheriff's Department obviously when an animal's involved?
A lot of times what happens is I don't initially go out to some of the calls that come in unless there's been a crime committed. I do go out with the Sheriff's Department on the Section 8 sweeps, the parolee sweeps. I also work with the NAT team, and we go out and find locations where there's multiple violations that have occurred. If the Sheriff's Department, they may roll up to a call where they've gotten a call as well as animal control about a dog attack. They may respond first and they may get there before us, but we always show up, make contact with the deputies, and try to find out what's going on.
Unless you have anything further to share before we open it to questions, if you wouldn't mind sitting here and I'll get the mics on for you and then the public can come up to the podium. Thank you. Would anyone like to come up and ask a question? Certainly, sir.
Okay.
Yes, my question is about feral cats. I've got a neighbor that's got more cats than you can count. I've taken, after 66 cats I caught and took to the pound, I quit counting. And I'm in the middle of a neighborhood surrounded by houses, and you can sit out there on any night and you can count 20, 30 cats. And it's coming particularly from one house on the street that I live on. Okay. So I bought a cage and started catching them and taking them to the pound. And actually, for a while there, I had the situation cleaned up, but now it's back again. And there's just, and none of those cats that I took to the pound, not a single one had a license or a collar. And are they required to have license and collars for cats?
Not in the city, sir. In the county, it is. But did you ever give the address of?
I did.
Both cities require cat license.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I am corrected. The city of Lancaster does actually require cat owners to license their cats.
Got a lot of cats on the street that I live on, and none of them had licenses.
Well, if I may, sir, what happens is that when you go to a house, first, did you ever give the address of?
I did.
You did? Okay.
I did.
Do you know if there was a complaint filed or an officer went out there?
I filed a complaint.
You
but
filed a complaint?
I haven't seen anything happen, and this was several months ago.
Okay. Why don't you give me your information after the meeting, and then I'll get back with you and let you know. But just for the general information of the public, if you have a situation like this, we always encourage, after 66 cats, that's kind of ridiculous to expect for you to keep trapping them.
I could catch 2 cats a day.
Okay, so in that situation, more than likely, even though when we do go to houses, they do tell us, oh, the cat's not mine, but, if you're feeding it and you're providing care for it, well, under the law, it is yours. So what we would do in that case is make contact with the person. Sergeant Montez will more than likely go out there and either give them an order to remove all the cats or get a warrant and seize all the animals, depending on the conditions and what we see.
Okay. One other question.
Yes.
Here a few months back, we have a neighbor who has a boxer. Looks like he's a pedigree. The dog gets out occasionally. He doesn't appear to be real aggressive, but he does run up and down the street, which drives my dogs nuts because my yard is fenced. But I took a picture of the dog. I went to the pound and filed a report with a lady there at the desk. And when I got through, I said, "What's next?" She goes, "What do you mean, what's next?" I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And she goes, "What do you want us to do? Go knock on the door?" And I said, "Well, that'd be a good idea because the dog doesn't have a collar. Now, he may have a license, and maybe they just don't put a collar on him, but I actually gave him a picture of the dog and the address of the house, and the dog still occasionally gets out and runs all over the neighborhood. You can tell when he's out because my dogs get upset, and you can hear people running and calling, trying to get the dog back and everything."
Okay, usually in a situation like that where you already have complaint, again, because I don't know exactly what address it is, I can't give you a lot of information, but
Yeah.
and just for the public to know, when you have a situation where you have a neighbor that constantly lets their dog out, that's considered a nuisance, and there is legal action we can take against owners at that.
Yeah, they do that every morning. They let at least the one dog out, and it roams all over the neighborhood and everything. But the cat thing is really, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty bad.
Okay.
So I'll give you that info.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I have a question from a gentleman in the audience. He would like to know how many animals, whether cats, dogs, horses, whatever type of animal, are allowed per household.
Okay, in the city of Lancaster, you're allowed 3 dogs and 8 hoofed animals per acre.
Can you repeat that last
3
part?
dogs and 8 hoofed animals per acre.
8 hoofed.
Hoofed.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. How many cats?
How many cats?
Certainly not
3.
66. but-
3. It's
Three.
it's 3 dogs or 3 cats, but it can
Dogs
be
or
3 dogs and 3 cats. And this is per address. So if you have 2 addresses on one lot, that's 3 each.
Okay. And I'm going to ask on a specific complaint we've received. There's been a few complaints lately that have come in where there's 5 dogs at a residence, and what I've been told by the resident is that, or of the complainants, is that officers from the shelter have come out. However, they're told, oh, well, these 2 dogs are visiting. So how do you handle that? Do you take them at your word? Do you go back and check the location if you feel it's suspicious? Or does the person, the neighbor, have to continue to call in?
There's been situations where, we're dealing with savvy people that, are obviously attached to their animals. For whatever reason, they've had 5. And when you have animal control knocking at your door, of course, they're just visiting or whatever. What I tell my officers is that we go by what the letter of the law of the Lancaster City Municipal Code says, and it says that at any time that there's 3 or more animals on that property, they will have to remove them. So if they have 5, they can't have animals visiting. If they do have animals visiting, I would ask that they provide owner information. Why are they visiting? Is this a dog care? If it is, where's your business license? There's a lot of different avenues that we can take. Of course, I've only been there a couple of months, so there's going to take some time to get the officers getting them in that frame of mind. So yeah, there's definitely more that we can do than just take them at their word.
And I have another question related to this gentleman's question about the cats. And now it just completely, I know we talked about having officers, if I'm stating it correctly, that canvass the neighborhoods. So when they canvass, an example, would they go to his neighborhood and do they act on seeing so many cats or dogs? Or how would they help in this situation?
If you have canvassers canvassing a specific area and they see an animal being abused or whatever violation that they see in their presence, they're usually pretty good about getting back, when they report back to the shelter, letting one of the sergeants know exactly what they saw, and then from there we'll send a unit out there and investigate it further.
Okay. I thought I had another one. Anyone would like to come up? Yes, ma'am. Or you want me to ask?
I want to go back to the letting the dogs out. 2 times, one time last week and once this week. I came out about 6:30 in the morning, and I saw this neighbor, and they let the dog out, and the dog went down the street. And so I saw it, and I'm thinking, wow. And so I made a comment. I said, so that's how you do it. And so then the person came out and tried to, find the dog. But this morning when I came out, what happened was that they put something in the door. I didn't see the person, but they put something in the door. Then the dog came on out. And sometimes they have 2 dogs, and he just roamed the street. So I was wondering, how would you address the issue like that? If I would say, like I'm telling it now, it's out, but what could I do? Or do I call the animal control and say, this person constantly is letting the dog out? And I've actually seen it. I'd heard it before, but I had never seen it. But I saw it these 2 times. And so is there something, or how would we address that?
In a situation like that, that you've seen your neighbor let his dog out, we always ask, or we always recommend that you call our department. If it's at either because it's during the shift differential via 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, we're always good about either scheduling the Lancaster officer earlier or later to accommodate more or less the complaint. We don't want these dogs getting out, and then now not only are they getting out, but they're defecating on a neighbor's yard.
Yeah, we get
then kids play, they roll in the grass, they get it on them, or the dogs, I don't know if they're aggressive or not, but that's not something that you want to find out once you're out there. So we really recommend that you call our department and, get the problem rectified, yes.
Go ahead.
I actually have a lot of questions, so I'll try to keep them quick. One of them is animals that have been hit. What do you recommend that the community does regarding seeing?
As far as like a doggone car hit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you see like a dead animal maybe in the middle of the street.
Okay. When you see a dog get hit, the first thing you want to do is don't try to help it. A lot of the times we have good Samaritans that mean well and want to move the dog over, and they end up getting bit. When an animal is injured, that's at the point where it's most fractious, and you could end up getting bit. So if you see an animal get hit, of course, pull over, because you can't call and drive anymore. Pull over, call our department, and we'll send a unit out to go pick up the animal. If you see a deceased animal, the same thing. Call our department. We pick up deceased animals too.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And it could be anything from cows all the way, to dogs. So.
Just for clarification on that, so it's best to call your department rather than 911 if you actually see a dog get hit.
What 911 will do, once you let them know what the problem is, they're going to transfer you to our department anyway. So you can call our department or you can call 911. eventually the information will be disseminated to us and we'll send a unit out. Go ahead.
With the residents too, when you guys call in injured animals or loose animals, a lot of the problem is, being the area that we service, a lot of times we will say the dog's on G and 10th West when the actual animal is on 10th East. So it's really important to know where you're at to give us the locations. Even if you're on a large stretch like Avenue G goes for a long distance, even if you could say there's a blue house with a dumpster out front, anything like that's going to happen will help us. A lot of the officers, they've known this area, so if you say it's the house that has the Virgin Mary outside, I know that house, and we're able to pinpoint where a location is rather than you drive 3 miles down the road and then pick that cross street. So if that would be very helpful to us, even with the stray dogs that are running loose, injured animals, deceased animals, any information you could give us. A lot of times animals are moved by the public from the street, deceased animals, and a call may come into us that it's been in the middle of the street and there's people that actually feel bad that will actually conceal that animal into a bush so children don't see it. So when our officers go through, it's not there where we're looking for it. So, if it's been moved or if you do move it out of the street, just let us know it's by a bush or just kind of give us like some kind of landmark to help us out because you know how the fields are out here and people move things, animals run, and it just helps us out that way.
Is it a crime to do for like somebody to hit a dog and leave the scene? Do they have to stay, or is that considered a crime?
Not in
Not
the
to my
animal
knowledge,
control
no. Okay.
title, but maybe in the with CHP vehicle code.
Okay. And my other question is about aggressive dogs. I was in a neighborhood, I'm not sure if you're allowed to breed aggressive dogs in the city, because I did see 2 people breeding an aggressive pit bull in the front yard with another one, to the point where they recommended I didn't leave the house that I was in, because the male dog was so aggressive they didn't know if he'd pull right off the chain, even though they had him on a leash. In those kind of situations, is that what you would like us to report?
Yes.
Answer that.
Go ahead.
My name is Sergeant Montez. I handle all the major cases, and it also includes breeding dogs. In the city of Lancaster, in the outlying unincorporated areas, you cannot breed a dog without a permit. So it is illegal. Whether it's a vicious dog or not, you have to have a permit, and you have to be approved for that permit.
And to further clarify on that too, she saw it open in the front yard that they were doing this, but if someone suspects that their neighbor may be breeding in the backyard or in the house, you still would prefer that the residents call and then you can investigate that further?
Yes.
Definitely. Always, if you suspect breeding of any type of dog, always call the department to make a complaint, and then I will be able to go out and find out whether it's true or not and take care of the problem.
And one more question. Level of cruelty, like that's considered cruelty, somebody hitting a dog with an object, starvation, like what do you consider enough to be reportable as far as animal cruelty?
Being that I handle all the neglect cases and major abuse cases, anytime you physically harm an animal, whether it's through hitting or tossing it across a room or starvation or leaving it in filthy conditions, they're all considered neglect. And it just depends on the level that we come across, whether it can be charged as a misdemeanor or a felony. We have filed numerous felony complaints with the district attorney regarding animal cruelty, and we've gotten many convictions on it. So we do not take it lightly. We prosecute people who do these things to these animals. We investigate them thoroughly to make sure we have enough evidence to go through with a case.
And one more question, I just remembered. I know a woman who was attacked by a dog. And severely injured, really, really badly. In fact, you guys might even know the case. The dog did get taken away and put down, and their friends bought them a new dog. People who own vicious animals to receive another vicious animal after one's been taken away, how do you address that?
Part of the problem is that people don't report incidences to us. So if they don't report them to us, then we don't know about them. We have a lot of cases where an incident will occur, and we'll go out there and canvass the neighborhood for information, and then we'll find out the dog was out 25 times. And it goes back to the lady's question earlier about the dog being loose every day. You have, even if it's an incident where it's innocent, you need to report that, because that puts our ducks in a row. So later on, if something, God forbid, happens with human versus animal or dog versus dog, then we have a record going back as far as 08, 06, saying, hey, this is a pattern that they've had with this dog. Or it could be a pattern with multiple dogs that they've owned. And it just shows that their neglectfulness allowing their dog to always be loose. It doesn't always have to be the same dog. If your friend didn't report it to us and there was not an incident report taken, once we take it to the district attorney's office, when we file cases, we file against the people, letting them know, as far as our offer to them, is that the animal cannot own, live, or possess any animal for 3 to 5 years.
Oh my God.
So if things are not...
2 new dogs.
Okay, but see, if things aren't brought up to our attention on that incident, they're going to turn the dog in. Your friend may not have wanted to file a complaint against them in fear of retaliation or whatever the case may be. Then nothing stops them from getting another dog.
To add to Sergeant Eimer's, what she was saying is that once we get the order, or once we get them to own any dogs for 3 to 5 years, they're also subject to search and seizure from our department throughout that period. So even if they do get it in violation, and if we go there and we see the dog, it's immediately seized.
Oh, and one more question. In investigating, the same woman actually had 2 dogs that she kept outside, and they ended up disappearing. And because she thought that maybe these people took her dogs as retaliation, do you investigate things like that?
That would be a theft, so that would have to go through the sheriff's department.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question piggybacking on one of hers, and I agree, and that's what we tell our neighborhood watch people too, is they need to call the sheriffs to show a pattern, like you were discussing. Can residents keep a log, whether they call you or not call? Of course, we want them to call. But if they're keeping a log, can that be turned into you as well to help show a pattern?
It's possible that it could be turned in, but it's best to call so that we have a documented paper trail,
And
if you will.
Okay. And is each, because I know at the sheriff's station all calls are taped, are all calls that are called in taped or
To
documented?
my knowledge, they are. However, when you're placing a call to our department, all calls are stored in our computer system. So every time a resident calls, we can pop up a name and see how many times that person has called,
Great.
which will then lead to our paper trail, which will lead to the pattern,
And when we encourage our residents to call into the sheriffs, we encourage them to get what's called a tag number. Is that something that the residents can ask as well from you?
It's called the service request number.
Service request number. So remember that when you call in, ask for the service request number. Someone else with a question? Yes, ma'am.
Well, my question goes back to the barking dog situation. And our neighbors, who are sort of nice neighbors, kind of, they have 2 Dobermans and a black lab. The one female Doberman is an absolute, complete, and total nuisance. We cannot even go in our backyard without, you can't even cough out there without her starting in with her constant barking. And it just, the way the houses are, it's just almost like an echo chamber. And we have spoken, or I have spoken to the neighbors and have asked them in as nice a way as I possibly can, please do something about her. And I don't wish her any harm. I love dogs. I have 3 myself. But this continues to go on and go on and go on, where she barks whether they're home or they're not home. And I know that you had said that the request has to be in writing. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Is that actual writing? Can that be by email?
It could be via email, or it could be just a regular letter mailed to the shelter.
Okay. And then after that, then tell me again the steps that are required, that happen after I submit my...
After we receive your complaint via email or in writing or via letter, we will mail an abatement notice to the owner, telling them that he has 7 days to correct the problem. If at that time, we always, when we make contact with you as the victim, we call them the victim, we will tell you if in 7 days it's not corrected, please contact our department again. We want to know if the problem was corrected or not. If in 7 days it's not corrected, then we will recommend to send both parties to Consumer Affairs. Now, the issue with Consumer Affairs is that it's not legally binding. The Consumer Affairs person can say, come and we'll mediate, and they don't have to. So what a lot of people, it's a very discouraging process at times. I understand your frustration. I have a neighbor that has 5 min pins, and my wife can tell you that it's very annoying when you're going back there. And I have a boxer, and all she has to do is go to the fence and, so I know how you might feel. The next step would then be we would send you a petition where if your neighbors are hearing the same dog bark, you can have your neighbors sign, or it could just be you. We prefer if you have more people signing because, when this gets presented to the district attorney to sit down for an actual hearing, the more, the stronger the case is. Once you go to the district attorney, it could be, he has to show up, first of all. He has to show up to the hearing. Once that happens, the district attorney can order either the dog removed, which in the first case usually doesn't happen, but he can order the dog owner to buy him a barking collar. He can fine him. There's a lot of different things that the district attorney hearing officer can do at that point.
Okay. Well, so during this whole process, the only time you can actually remain anonymous is during the first phase.
Yeah, because eventually he will find out who the complaining party is. See, even in criminal complaints, because ultimately once the case is over, it becomes public record. At any time, anybody can subpoena records and find out exactly who complained on what, and so at first we do try and keep, if we go to a house and it's the first time, we'll say, hey, please, keep your dog quiet. We're not going to tell them who called us, but it can be subject to discovery.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it can be. Okay, so let's just say I submit mine in writing, and then you guys come out and do that, and then a week later, my neighbor, who doesn't like them either, submits one. Then you guys would go back out a second time?
Mm-hmm. If it's on the same address, we're not going to restart the process. We'll just continue off of whatever your complaint was.
Okay. And then I said, one other question is, for the whole 3 years that I've lived in the house I live now, down the street is a German Shepherd that is kept in an extremely small confinement. Yes, he does have a doghouse there, but come summertime, by the time the afternoon rolls around, the sun is so intense bouncing off walls there that the dog, this is a big German Shepherd, the dog actually lays his head in a patch about this big of shade. And I don't know, is that considered, is the doghouse considered shelter, even though he can't possibly go in there? It's like an oven in there in the summertime. You know how hot it gets, out here. Or, is this guy within his legal rights? I've complained, I don't know how many times to animal control. I probably have had him out there 15 times. But what I understand is that, well, he's in compliance because the dog has shelter, but he doesn't always have water because his bowl is usually knocked over because he's in a tiny, tiny area. So is that still considered okay? Like he has shelter because of that house, even though it's blazing in the summertime?
Even though he has a doghouse, in our area, it's not like living in Los Angeles, where their humidity is different and their weather is different. Ours in the summertime is extremely hot. So just having a doghouse with nothing over top for shelter is not sufficient. They would be responsible to get some type of shelter so that that animal can get out of the heat of the sun when he or she wants to, because that can also be considered cruelty.
I thought so.
Yes.
So what should I do again? Should I
Call.
Call
again?
and give the address, and we will go out there.
I'd be happy to. Okay, thank you.
Someone else? Okay, Evelyn.
Hi.
Hey.
I just want to ask you a question. Why they take so long to when you call animal control for to answer the phone? When I call for an injured animal, it takes so long, so somebody pick up the phone.
Okay. How long ago did you call, or when? How was your experience? How long ago was this? Remember?
All the time, I
All
live
the
in the
time?
area that, I cannot even look at it, all the time when I see around is animal abuse, horses with no shelter, standing up in the sun outside, and, and I got tired of, my ears, to call and calling, ringing, it takes so long for it.
Okay. When you call, all our calls go to Downey. There is a call center in Downey that take all the calls for all the county of Los Angeles and Ventura County that we service. So, having said that, there are times where the lines are tied up. Sometimes we do have lines that are considered overfull that go directly to the shelter.
Right.
But that's a problem that we've had in the past that the department has been correcting by adding additional staff at the call center. So it's a problem that we're working to give to expedite the answering of the phone calls and sending units out.
Okay. Also, I just want to refer, when you say that people passing by and those try to jump over the fence, not all the time the animal falls. It's like I see people teasing the dogs through the fence to the dog to make them bark. And I see kids, teasing them through the fence. So it's not all the time the dogs,
Well, if you have a dog that you see that a neighbor teases, I don't know how the sergeants feel about this, but I mean, you can give us a call to go out and speak to that person and tell them, hey, give them a little bit of education because that's part of our mission too.
Right.
Education, intervention, and enforcement is the way we work. So education, we could go out educate, the person and say, hey, you know what? What you're doing is not okay.
That's
Don't
right.
be teasing the animal. You might get bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm saying. When it's not all the time the dog falls because the people, I see it all the time. It makes the dog bark.
Another thing we might suggest to the owner is don't keep your dog in the front yard, but keep him in the back. Not only to protect the child, it's more to protect your dog from passerbys.
I see people have my neighbor have a wood fence, but still, they go.
They peek through
Peek through it, and then I see that. I think it's not fair because the animal cannot protect themselves and say, hey, he's teasing me,
Yes.
They cannot talk. So I would appreciate it if you, investigate it,
Okay. Give us a call when you see it, and, we'll go out.
All right, and another thing that I want to ask is that we have one more shelter, the one far away shelter over here, that we can, in the future, we're going to build another one in closer to Lancaster, another shelter.
There will be another shelter built in Lancaster. However, I don't know where exactly it's going to be. I know the county and the city and then different entities are in negotiations as to the location and where it's going to be, how it's going to be. However, I don't have that information, but I know that there is one in the works to be built.
And, another thing that bothers me, I see people, not even break for the animals,
Break?
When driving.
Okay.
And I want to see if we can put some law, so that people cannot, hit a dog and keep going.
You want to...
I want to enforce, see how can we improve a law to
Like no hitting animals law, something like that?
yeah,
Or like with-
to not to leave the scene,
Okay.
when they hit the dog. Because a lot of time I see the people hit the dog,
Right.
and it's like nothing. They keep going, and and I have to stop, and try to, call the animal control.
Well, I think in order to enact the law, I don't know if it's done here by initiative or referendum, that's something that you would probably have to get together with, your citizens and speak to your city representatives and see what they can do.
Oh, I see.
Because as of right now, there's no laws in the book that we have that it's illegal to have an accident with a dog or hit a dog with a car. Or,
I have a question on that. Monty, if a deputy were to see someone purposely hit an animal, is there something in the penal code for that? You need to come to the microphone. Sorry.
You're putting me on the spot because we were just talking about that back there.
They can't hear you. Monty.
Well, it echoes. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I really don't know. Now, obviously, if we see someone hitting a dog, we're going to pull them over and ask them, hey, did you know you hit a dog? And what's the first thing they're going to tell us?
no.
I didn't see. Really? I'm sorry. I'll go back, So it's going to be hard for us to prove that they intentionally hit it because, of course, everything around here is an accident. I was just telling Calvin that if we hit a dog in our patrol cars, we have to report it, and our supervisor comes out and we have to do it because we've actually hit something. Because we got to account for all the damage to our vehicle. Now, again, I honestly can't answer the question if we do see it. It's trying to pin them on their intentions. If they intentionally do it, then of course we're going to take our actions and get them for the animal cruelty section because that is an intentional act. But like I said before, 9 out of 10 times they're going to say, "Oh, I didn't see it. I felt something, but I didn't see it."
So to add to that, if you feel it's cruelty, would you cite them with a ticket and then they would have the ability to then talk to the judge about their intent?
If it is intentional, and we do, it depends on, again, the different level. There's a misdemeanor and the felony. If, the dog gets loose and you have an opportunity to run it over and you see it and you just go for it and you hit it and we see it, yeah, I got tired of the dog.
That's cruelty.
That's cruelty. But now, if you hit it once and you go back over it and you're making hamburger meat out of it, sorry to put it that way, it kind of takes it to a different level, if you know what I mean. And then please, I'm not trying to be insensitive, to the dogs. I love dogs too, but that's what it's a bad example. But if you keep running it over, then obviously we're going to take it up a different level, and you can't say, "Oh, it was an accident." Did that answer everybody's questions? Or
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, on the barking dogs, we have a dog behind us that barks in the middle of the night, and I wake up at 3 in the morning to go to work, and it barks all through the night, and it affects my wife and my family's quality of life.
Okay.
It seems like the process is drawn out way too much. It doesn't seem like they're held accountable for the dog. If we write a letter, can we skip to the petition part? Because I have neighbors that will sign it immediately.
All our barking complaints are on a case-by-case basis, and if, I'm sure that, once you speak to the person who's handling the barking complaints, if you can communicate to him that, you feel that, consumer affairs might not work, we can always skip to the petition and see if we can file the case.
So when we write the letter, will it be appropriate follow-up? Because it seems like we've called before, and your department doesn't give proper follow-up. If we call back to find out an update on a call, they don't give proper, they say, well, we don't know, or that person.
Have you submitted your request in writing, sir?
We found out tonight that we have to write a letter.
Oh, okay. So you were probably not given all the information that you needed.
It seems like that way quite a bit, and it seems...
Well, I apologize for that, sir. I always tell the operators, at least from our shelter, you got to make sure that, especially on barking complaints, barkers, so like you said, it tends to be a long and tedious process. You're sending the letter, it gets to us, meanwhile the dog is still barking. So if I can have your information, I'll be more than glad to give the information to one of my sergeants and make contact with you and get the information on exactly what the problem is. And
I have a question on that too. Are they allowed to go on your website and do an online
yes,
complaint
you can do
for
that.
barking dogs? Can you give the website?
Yeah. The website is http and then //animalcare.lacounty.gov.
Okay.
I'll give you my card, sir.
To add to that real quick, on rare occasions, we have, after the entire procedure has gone through, we have issued citations and had the people go into court and filed criminal charges on them because they did not take care of the problem after we've done everything we were supposed to do, the process we were supposed to do. So we do take the barking seriously. We will, if the people do not take care of the problem, we have no problem prosecuting these people through the courts.
Now, the letter that you send to them about the abatement process, is that certified mail? Because
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And will we be notified that they received
You
it?
get a letter, what we call a letter of receipt. It's more or less a letter telling you that we sent them a letter of the notice to abate.
Now, the person handling the case, would we be able to follow up with them and find out if
Yes.
the person actually received the letter?
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's another question I have, because we get a lot of these complaints here at City Hall. Is it the same officer that continues to handle those complaints? The barking dog officer?
It's not Sergeant Rodriguez anymore.
Okay.
It's Officer DeBaney.
Is there a direct line? And even for both of the ladies, since they handle certain types of cases, or does everyone have to go through the main line?
We do have lines of our own because we handle specified cases. And so if there's something that specifically needs to go to Sergeant Eimers or myself, then we can give out a direct number to both of us.
But you would do that once you make contact with the person, not something that we would give out now to the general public?
Yes.
Okay.
And also on the barking dogs, a lot of the problems that we've been having at the shelter is we do receive the letters, but we don't have your contact information. If we don't have your contact information, we can't send out letters. A lot of times people are so irate that they're yelling at us, and a lot of times they do hang up. And we understand their frustration, but you have to understand we still have to have a record of who made the complaint. And that's where we've been having a lot of the issues. We receive letters, they're great letters, they're very detailed letters, but we don't know who wrote them. And we have to follow California Penal Code 370A with public complaints and public nuisance. A lot of times what ends up happening too is we send something over to the district attorney, and the district attorney has the opportunity to either take the case or reject it. And that's not up to us, that's up to the DA. So if it's a weak case where you may be the only person affected by a barking dog, no, I'm just saying, and it's here, here, and here, he may not take the case. In a case where somebody can't even enter their own backyard because there's a dog constantly at the fence is going to be a little bit different. Unfortunately, in the Antelope Valley, we have one courthouse.
Right.
And the DAs are so backed up on cases that, of course, they're going to take a rape, a murder, burglary case before a barking dog case. And that's been some of the problems. That's why we try to get people to go to Consumer Affairs to resolve those matters at that level if we can.
What Consumer Affairs do?
It's just like a mediation hearing, letting you know, here's your neighbor, here's your other neighbor, this is the problem, let's see if... Because it's really weird how people that own these barking dogs, they seem never to hear their own barking dog. It's just really amazing. I have a beagle next to me, and I sit there all the time, and I'm like, I'm animal control, and it's like, can't they hear their own dog?
Because this is at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and I need to be on point at work in the field that I'm in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I lose sleep every night. I'm up every hour.
So, and in the meantime, when you guys do send your letters to us, keep a log. Because everything that you write down or videotape, that goes to the district attorney's office. So if we just really have like a letter saying, I'm annoyed, I'm a construction worker, I have to be up at 3 in the morning, dogs kept me up all night, the DA is going to be like, yeah. But if you have a video, you know, a recording of it, logs of it, then you're going to spark more of the interest of the district attorney. And when you guys do videotaping or recording, always call the phone number for the time, because I'll give you a time right then and there, and that's worked in the past a lot.
But please, to add to that for your recording, please make sure if it's dark that when you videotape, you have some type of flash or light, because I know from dealing with complaints for the sheriffs, we get videos where people say, yeah, I got a drug deal on tape, and then they show us the video, and it's like from 100 yards away, and we can't see anything. Or they tell us, yeah, we got the license plate of the car, but then the deputies go to look at the videotape, and you can't even read the plate. So keep that in mind. And I'm glad she said that, because it's the same as we tell you when you're dealing with the sheriff's, when you're calling in a crime or suspicious activity. You want to be the best witness you can be, give the best description you can. So as she's saying, keep a log, give as much detail as possible. You know, she talked about a pattern and why it's so important to call in, but keep your log too of the times that that you're calling in, the times that the dog is barking. Again, as much information.
To add to that real quick, recordings work fantastic as evidence for the DA. As long as there's some way to pinpoint the time that the dog starts barking and you let the recording go, even if it's 3 hours straight, the district attorney needs that type of information. As far as the videos are fine, but you don't want to provoke the dog into barking also, because the district attorney will note that as well.
And just a note on that too, you can't put your camera in the neighbor's yard. You have to be able to do it you can't trespass on their property. I know that from past history, dealing with, not our neighborhood watch, but another city. Is there another question?
No. Would you repeat that website again, please?
Sure. The website is animalcare.lacounty.gov. And LA would be just LA, and then county is spelled out, COUNTY.
And we'll make sure to put that on our city website as well. And the information, I know we have some information on our website, but I'll make sure that's on there as well. And probably some important frequently asked questions of what we've learned tonight. Someone else with a question? Yes, ma'am.
I was in another meeting. In my neighborhood, which is notorious, it's been in the news for pit bulls being shot in the front yards, etc., in the past couple of years. We have a pit bull that lives on the next street over from me. Sometimes the people have it on a lead. Other times, it's running free. I am terrified of them. I've been attacked twice by a pit bull. At 11 o'clock at night, my dogs go nuts because that pit bull and an additional one with it were running loose in the neighborhood. They were across the street from me. Now, if I call, who do I call? Do I call animal control? Are they going to come out? Because I'm not sure which house it is. Sometimes you can hear the lady yell, whatever the dog's name is, get over here, and the dog will come right back. You know, but it is still a loose dog. and I have no intentions of finding out if it's nice and friendly or not. It's my personal thing, my family thinks I have an issue, but I do. But who do I contact, what do I do, so somebody will come and stop these dogs from, we tolerate the people across the street whose dog gets out all the time, nobody can catch it, it doesn't like the people it belongs to, and they're little dogs. No, it won't go to anybody. And, I've seen the dog go after people, go after a man walking his dogs. They just kick it in the head, get out of the way, leave me alone. But it won't go to the owners. They have two little bitty dogs that run loose all the time out in the front yard also. Of course, dogs mind nuts. But my concern more is for these two pit bulls. Well, I know there's one definitely. The other one, I don't know where that other one came from that night, but they were running loose. So who do I call at 11 o'clock at night?
On the incidences that you've had, have you called animal control and
No,
reported
because
them?
I don't know who to call. I don't know where they live. I know that if you go around the little short street, they're over there somewhere. But I'm not sure which house it is.
Okay.
So, I wouldn't be giving you much information if I call and say, hey, I got a pit bull running around loose at night. Sometimes they're in the daytime. I've come home sometimes at 5 o'clock and the dog's running around in a neighbor's yard. Sometimes it's 11, sometimes it's 8 o'clock in the morning. My husband comes home late, he's a night shifter, he sees it out there sometime. So it's different times of the day and night. So,
What you need to do is anytime you see a stray dog, especially a pit bull or anything that would be considered a dominant breed, you need to call the department and just report it.
Okay.
Odds are about 80% of the time when the officers go out and chase a dog, it runs home. So
Right.
we may find out where it belongs.
Okay, yeah, because I know if they call it, it'll go straight.
And definitely it never fails when you catch the dog, a whole house full of people come out saying, that's my dog.
Oh, yeah,
And then that's when the citations occur.
right. Because I've seen
So-
young kids walking them and older kids, different age groups.
But on the complaints, you're saying that they have the dogs tethered?
Sometimes when they're out walking, they have them on a lead. Other times,
They're not tethered stationary, they're walking them on leashes is what
Right.
you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
right. And actually, the dog is walking one. I watched a small child,
Okay.
and it was, but I don't want it to, I don't want to make it like because I have a thing about pit bulls, but our street has had several.
Any incidents you need to report, our department works 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We actually have graveyard units.
Okay.
So if you're out at 12 o'clock at night and you encounter a pit bull, call the department.
Okay.
The department will come out and do a patrol.
And give the best location, because you said you're not sure where it lives, give the best
Right.
location, or like she
It's
said,
somewhere off
the
of that
blue
street.
house, it's right now in front of the blue house, or
Okay.
And we'll definitely need an address to work with. I mean, you can't say I live on Fig and it's a blue house. That's not going to help the officer. If you live on the same street, you can tell us, my address is, it's 3 houses north, 3 houses south.
Yeah.
There's a brown van in the driveway where I saw the dog last.
Okay. Yeah.
Anything like that is going to
I'm
help.
not going to go out at 11 o'clock at night. I get up at 3:45 every morning too, but I'm not sure. I know the vicinity where it goes. I know it's off of Pickford and off of this street. I know where. It's one of those houses in there because the people can call it. From their house.
And it could be one of those days where if you report a black pit bull and we go out there, we may see a black pit bull in their backyard. And so we will go out and talk to them and say, hey, do you know if your dog's getting out? And a lot of times people are honest with us and they'll be like, I was taking the trash cans out, my dog gets out. A lot of times people don't see problems with that. The problem that we see the most, that I've seen the most with Lancaster and pit bulls and Rottweilers, is the dogs always get out because of their driveway gate. In the morning, they go to pull their car out for work, they open their driveway gate, and it's cool for them to let their dog loose so it could just go 4 houses down. They pull their car out, they call it back, but that's still a violation.
Right.
And that's when
They
a
drive off
child's
knowing the
walking to
dog's out loose.
school,
Yeah.
or somebody's walking their dog, and that's when a lot of these incidences occur. A lot of times it's not where they're just letting the dog be free and say go. In their mind, they're just opening their driveway gate to go to work, and we get that a lot.
Right. And I'm sure that in some cases that might happen, but I know in other cases, I saw the 3 guys standing on the corner watching the dogs run all over the yards. So it's like, there's an issue.
You should report it.
Okay,
Even
so
if it's just the block number, if it's a problem area, what we do is we go into, we have strike teams that go in. We went through areas in September through October. We broke the city down into 6 zones. And part of the zone, when the officers from other shelters came out to help us with the sweeps, we only went into one specific area a day.
Okay.
So we may concentrate, from 20th West to 10th West between I and H, and we concentrate in that neighborhood all day. Because some dogs get out in the morning, some getting out in the afternoon, some are getting out in the evening. I could tell you, like in the area of Little Rock, we were doing the sweeps, and over there they have more letters, streets, and streets with names. And we went out there one morning, and in 20 minutes we went 4 streets and filled 4 trucks with dogs. And we had to stop the patrols because our trucks were full. We had to turn around and come back to the shelter, unload, then go back out. And we've had cases like that in Lancaster where we could go through a neighborhood all day, not one dog is like they know. And then other days, we pick up 20 dogs, issue out 30 citations.
Okay, all right, well, yeah, all right, good, thank you, because I didn't know that you guys worked all night. I think at one time you didn't, it was like 9 to 5, and then, okay, if you have a problem, don't bother calling, And during the day, well, I've called on the people across the street a couple times, but this is not good.
And also talk to your neighbors. A lot of times the neighbor may see where the dog lives. You may not know, but your neighbor a couple houses down knows exactly where it lives.
Yeah, okay, I'll try that, find out for sure. Okay, thank you.
And to further clarify on a topic or question, and I want to make sure we're giving the right information at meetings. If a dog is attacking, they should call 911 or the sheriff's station, because the sheriff's deputies are going to be responding and calling you as they're on their way, correct? Or should they call you if an animal is charging?
They need to contact the department, our department.
Okay, because we were told...
The only way I would say that is if somebody's being attacked along with their dog, if there's human life involved, call 911.
That's what I mean. If I walk out of my house and a dog is charging me, I should call 911, not animal care and control. If they see a loose dog, like she was describing, they call the department.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that's clear. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
On our street, a neighbor just across the street from me, he has a huge dog, and I don't know what breed he is, but he's huge, and when he takes him out every so often, and he has him on chains, the big chains, and the dog, he wants to get loose and come on over to my side of the street, but the man has him on a chain. So I wonder that dog has never, but I'm afraid I wouldn't go near him. But what do I do in a case like that? He's never attacked me, but he's so huge, and he barks all the time. Anybody passing by the gate, the dog just starts to bark.
On cases like that, you need to contact the department. That's why we do the Safe Neighborhood Program.
Okay.
And any time that you feel that an animal has the potential of getting off a property, is not secure on its property, I will go out and check the fencing to make sure that that animal is containable on that property.
Okay.
A lot of people have a 4-foot fence, and they'll have a boxer, Doberman pinscher, and that's not a sufficient fence for a large breed dog.
Mm-hmm.
It may be a perfect fence, nothing's wrong with it, it's not weak, but it's not meeting the height requirement for the type of animal that it is. And even though the animal has not committed a violation, we go out there on the Safe Neighborhood Program just to ensure the residents that we've checked it and made sure everything was okay.
Okay.
All righty?
To add to that, and back to the previous description of the loose pit bull, it is a law that a dog must be on a leash, even if they're, so even if I were walking my dog, but I don't have it on a leash, that's still a violation, correct?
Anytime your dog is off your property, you have to have it on a leash.
Okay. So if someone, like what the lady mentioned, this pit bull, or no matter what animal, if they believe that it could possibly be an aggressive or vicious dog, although it may not appear at the time, but they should call and report the time. Because let's say this person is going, what I'm getting at is if there's a pattern again, every morning at 7 a.m. I walk my dog down the street, but I don't have it on a leash. But it could be intimidating. They should call that in.
Yeah, that's a violation under the Title 10. It states that animals have to be on a leash no longer than 6 feet and walked by a competent person. And what that interprets to, if a 7-year-old is walking a Rottweiler, that is not a competent person to contain and hold that dog. And we see that a lot in areas where you will see the younger kids with probably a brother's pit bull on a large chain, and the dog's dragging them down the street. And we've had cases where the officers have actually impounded the dog, not allowing the child to no longer walk that animal, take the animal back, and educate them on what is a proper leash, who should be walking this type of dog.
Or even if someone, say my size, I think I can be pretty strong at times, but if I'm walking 5 Rottweilers that are my size, obviously that's the same situation.
That's the same situation, and that's why it's specified just by a competent person.
Okay. Any last questions from anyone? Yes, ma'am. Education, intervention, and enforcement. And I had a question on that. Do you work with the schools, since one of our attendees asked about or talked about kids teasing dogs? Do you work with the schools at all to work through the schools to educate kids and teens?
Sometimes schools will call us for career days. Sometimes certain IMers or certain contests will go out and speak to the kids on, the proper way to care for an animal, what to do, what not to do. I've done it in the past. I have a life-size stuffed lab that I bring as a prop. And, we talk to the kids. But that's usually more schools calling us for that.
And another question that goes back to the cruelty, as we know, and I know we've discussed it, with our state of the economy and the number of vacant homes we have, a lot of people, unfortunately, have not only walked away from their homes, but also their animals. So I would just brought that up so that we can get the word out that people should certainly call that into the department, too, so that a dog has been left behind.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely, because it doesn't cost the person anything to bring their dog into the shelter if they've lost their home. Rather than leaving it in the backyard to fend for itself, because that, again, is a form of cruelty and it is a crime.
Now, on that, too, if you get a call about a dog being left and you go to that home and you're able to rescue it, do you then try and locate the owner to then cite them for cruelty?
A lot of times it's very difficult to get the information on the owners to file charges. Once in a while, we pick up a dog that's been left and it has a microchip or it has a license, and we are able to trace that back to the owners. And then we contact the owners and find out why they did this and explain to them what they can be charged with.
Okay. Any last questions as we wrap up? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure that I heard this right. Now, cats in the city of Lancaster are required to have a license.
Yes, sir.
But they're not required to have a collar? I mean, how do you control that? I've yet to see a cat with a collar with a tag on.
If you are required to have a license, the animal's required to wear it.
They're required to wear it?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to... Yeah.
And that, too, comes back to my earlier canvassing question. Do those officers actually go door to door and ask, do you have a cat, to see if there are actually cats or dogs, for that matter, that aren't licensed?
The way our revenue services officers work is that they go on an index. It's called a walking index, where we have residences that have registered dogs or cats they'll go to those houses, and in between those houses, they'll go to basically all the houses and ask, do you own a pet? A lot of times you're knocking, the dog's already barking. If he's indoors, or you go in the house, you see the cat through the window, kind of pawing at you. So, yeah, they do ask.
Okay. Well, I know it's getting late in the evening. I'll take 2 more questions if there are any. Okay.
I just had a quick one.
You need to come to the mic, or just say it to me and I'll repeat it in the mic.
Is it a law here in the Antelope Valley that every dog, regardless of breed, is to be neutered or spayed?
Very good question. The question is it a law here in the Antelope Valley that any dog, regardless of what type, is required to be spayed or neutered?
The Board of Supervisors passed a new ordinance about 2 years ago, and it's required for all animals in unincorporated county of Los Angeles that all animals are spayed, neutered, and microchipped. Unless the city adopts the ordinance, that's the only way it's enforced. The city of Lancaster has adopted that ordinances for pit bulls and Rottweilers and their mixed breeds.
But to add to that, whether it's the city part of the ordinance or the county, there are some exceptions, correct? Like if they can prove they're a breeder, and I forgot the other ones, but...
They have to be an active show dog.
Oh, yes.
AKC registered active show dog. Unless there's a medical exemption, the animal is too old or has other problems that it cannot survive surgery, they will be exempted. Or if they're a registered breed dog.
And I would guess then, since it's now the county ordinance to be microchipped, obviously the department highly encourages microchipping.
Yes.
We do. The department does free microchipping on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you want to register the chip nationally, there's a $6 fee.
Okay. So any Tuesday they can come between, what were the hours?
8 and 10 in the morning.
8 to 10 to the shelter.
And they have to have a current license.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. One more? Does that
Yeah,
include
the
cats?
ordinance does not include cats.
Okay.
I was curious, is there a lot of new people that move up here? I also know a lot of people who are first-time pet owners. Is there a way to find out what the rules and regulations as the owner are in the city and the county?
The question was, as a new person in the Antelope Valley, is there a way to find out what the rules and regulations are as a pet owner?
Yes, you find that information on our website. There's a lot of good, useful information. Not only that, but if you have problems with wildlife, we'll give you tips on how to handle wildlife.
Are there, and I apologize, I should know this, but I haven't gone on your website for some time. Is there brochures that we could download from the website that we could then use to promote everything, whether Neighborhood Watch or any other events that the city does?
I'm sure you can, right?
Yeah, everything's on Adobe Acrobat.
Great.
So you should be able to print everything.
Okay, great. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that all dogs, if they're out on the property, have to be on a leash.
Yes.
If you have a dog that stays within the property boundaries, can you have them out in the front, like when you're doing yard work and things like that, or no?
The question was, does a dog have to be on a leash if it's out in the front yard? Now, my question is, does the yard have a fence? With no fence?
In the Title 10, it states that all animals are required to be contained on the property to protect the animals from the public and the public from the animals, which means that your animal cannot access the public, which means on the sidewalk. So the dog would have to be tethered in your yard unless it's completely fenced.
And one quick question, too, on the leashing. Is a chain considered a leash?
Not if it's used to tow a boat.
Thank you.
And that is actually a misdemeanor.
Okay.
It can be used as cruelty to animals. And when we catch people walking down the street, once again, their dog is thrown on the truck and it's taken home for them and they're issued their citation. We don't tolerate the thug look with chains that are used to tow boats or campers or hoist an engine out of a car.
So again, one of our attendees asked or described a big, huge dog being locked on a big chain. He should call that in, or any of us should call that in, especially if we obviously know the address, so then you could cite that person and educate them about the proper leash. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time tonight and answering all the questions, and I look forward to working with all of you much closer. I know this city, we've been working really hard with animal care and control to get out everything working better and strengthening our partnership. So I appreciate that, and like I said earlier, we will make sure to put some of this information, because I even learned things tonight that I didn't know. So we'll make sure to put it on our city website. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call the Animal Care and Control, but as a backup, you can call the Public Safety Office as well, just like we work with the Sheriff's Department. We're there as a backup or as a resource to you. And certainly, we get complaints here at City Hall, but we always pass them on to the shelter, and I'm working a lot with Lieutenant Ubario. So I thank you tonight for coming, especially dealing with our technical difficulties. So thank you so much, and have a very good evening.
Extensions for site plan reviews and conditional use permits. For the most part, what this does is changes the initial approval for CUPs by ordinance for 2 years. It would allow the site plan review and CUP, basically currently site plan reviews and CUPs have a 1-year extension. The modification would allow an additional 2 years for a total of 3 1-year extensions. Basically, the reason we're asking for this request is the projects that are in place right now are not progressing due to the water situation and the economy. And we have been notified from the applicants that they need more time to develop their projects. This change would provide the same time frame as a tentative track map. You would have the ability to have an annual review. It would be a discretionary at your discretion. By approving the proposed amendment to the current zoning ordinance, the applicants would be allowed additional time to get through the financial crisis and the water situation that we're currently in that is seriously affecting development, and we are recommending approval of the modification. That ends my...
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Do we have any speakers? No speakers. We do have speakers.
No speakers.
Pardon?
None. We have no speakers.
We have no speakers. All right. Thank you. So without objection, it's appropriate to close the public hearing and consider the recommendation of staff.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 0914, recommending the City Council approval of an amendment to Title 17 of the Lancaster Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance, in order to modify the expiration date for conditional use permits and increase the number of extensions available for site plan reviews and conditional use permits.
Second that. Thank you. So any discussion, questions? So it's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We have a new public hearing. This is the next item. Proposed vacation of excess street right-of-way. So the public hearing is open on item number 5. Do we have any speakers on this one?
No speakers.
All right. Could you give us a brief staff report?
Chairman Bose and Commissioners, the applicant is the City of Lancaster, and we're requesting a street vacation on the east side of Dade and south of Jackman Street between Jackman and Kettering, and the Planning Commission is required to review any proposed vacation of road right-of-way and determine whether it's in conformance with the adopted general plan. On the back page, you can see the diagram for the location of the request. And based upon the analysis, staff recommends that the commission find the proposed vacation to be in conformance with the general plan. This
All right.
fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have a motion, please? Bless you. It's appropriate to close the public hearing and consider a motion.
I'll make a motion that we find the vacation of excess street right-of-way at the location described is in conformance with the adopted general plan.
Second?
Okay, with further discussion? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote, please.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. That completes the regular agenda. We have director's announcements.
No announcements.
Okay. We did receive an email relative to scheduling for 1, 2, or 3 commissioners at a time to review upcoming agenda items relative to some annexations and general plan changes and so forth that Mr. Ludicky is working on, so hopefully you've all got that on your calendar. We also have a special meeting scheduled for June 29th at 6 p.m. in these chambers as well. That should be on your calendar. Okay. Anything else from the commission? Any other announcements, concerns? All right. So, time for public business from the floor, but I don't see anyone in the room other than staff and us. So, the public deserted us. So, we'll still call for public comments from the floor. Individuals have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Anyone? No cards. All right. So we are adjourned then till Monday, June 8th at 5:30 p.m. in the large planning conference room here at City Hall. Thank you. At 7:18.
Thank you. Oh, thanks. Thank you for your help. Thanks for your
Hi, I'm R.X. Paris, Mayor of the City of Lancaster. In February, we unanimously approved the city's local economic stimulus package. This stimulus package is comprised of more than 20 separate and unique programs, which we expect to generate $110 million of economic activity, not just here in Lancaster, but throughout the entire Antelope Valley. This stimulus package came about as the result of the ingenious work of the city staff, who have been busy developing it since the economy first started heading south back in October. On March 1st, we rolled out the first program, the Shop and Drive Vehicle Registration Rebate Program. Through this program, anyone purchasing a new car or street-legal motorcycle in the city of Lancaster can have the cost of their vehicle registration rebated by the city. Once a buyer purchases their new vehicle, he or she simply needs to bring the sales contract by City Hall to receive the rebate. The rebate is in the form of a Shop and Dine gift certificate, which can be spent at the many participating businesses in the city of Lancaster. This program has been extremely successful, generating a number of new vehicle sales throughout the city. In addition, the dealers are telling us the increased foot traffic generated by the program has also increased the number of pre-owned vehicles being sold. Once a buyer purchases their new vehicle, he or she simply needs to bring the sales contract by City Hall to receive the rebate. The rebate is in the form of a Shop and Dine gift certificate, which can be spent at the many participating businesses in Lancaster. You can always access an updated list of participating businesses by visiting shoplancaster.org. The Shop and Dine and Shop and Drive programs are just two of the programs making up our stimulus package. The entire package is comprised of 5 main elements: merchant assistance, hospitality, construction, developer broker assistance, and new city revenues. Each element contributes varying amounts of economic impact to the program. For instance, we anticipate the construction element alone to have an impact of nearly $63.5 million in the coming year. This construction element includes the acceleration of a number of capital projects. During the past year, we've purchased more than 100 homes in need of repair in some of our older neighborhoods. We've since fixed them up, and we're making them available to our hardworking families here in Lancaster. This program has provided steady employment for engineers, contractors, and our skilled labor workforce. We're also partnering with our local realtor association, assuring a number of local realtors will benefit from this program. The merchant assistant element, which includes the Shop and Dine and the Shop and Drive programs, is expected to generate more than $23 million of economic impact. The hospitality portion of the package is expected to generate nearly $22 million in economic activity. I'm excited that this hospitality element includes the creation of a Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as plans to bring new and exciting events to our city. You'll soon be hearing more about these events, which will bring an increased amount of visitors to the city of Lancaster. The development incentives offered within the Developer Broker Assistance Program will generate yet another $1 million of economic activity. In addition to streamlining the process for developers, we're offering incentives to local brokers who can help us sell and lease commercial space here in Lancaster. All of us on the City Council are extremely excited about this economic stimulus package. We invite you to learn more about the program by visiting shoplancaster.org. or call us 661-723-6128. And remember, Shop and Dine in Lancaster. On us.
Hi, I'm Joe Cabral, Communications Manager for the City of Lancaster, and we're here at the entrance to the 18th Annual California Poppy Festival, where we expect more than 60,000 people to join me here today. Let's go on in and have some fun.
The City of Lancaster would like to welcome you to the 18th
We're here with Mark Bozigian, City Manager of the City of Lancaster. Now, Mark, you grew up here.
Yes, I did, Joe. I was born and raised here, and this is a great event. I'm really very proud to be here.
So speaking of fun, we have music, food, acts. But what is there anything in particular you're looking forward to?
I actually like buying some of the spices and the honey and all the little things in the farmers market area. That's probably my favorite.
What I like is the music, so that's why I come. You know, the rest of it is a lot of excitement, but you know, they've got great music here, and that's why I come.
It was based on Earth Day, and that's how we started the celebration. And it became a way to celebrate the environment and doing the right things. And then finally somebody said, boy, look at the poppies here. We have this natural thing in our phenomena in our backyard, and nobody had really talked much about it. And so that became the genesis for this event. Once you get out to the Poppy Preserve, they can tell you every bit of information you'd want to know, not just about the poppies, but about lupins and other wildflowers that grow in abundance out on the west side of our city here.
I think this event is just a great place to bring the family and have fun with the family. Good food, good entertainment, just a nice relaxing day.
Not that one size fits all, but we've got everything to take care of everybody.
We're here in the fine arts area. We have a lot of really talented local artists. We have all sorts of people who are photographers and painters and have a lot of real talent, and they're all pretty much local. Now surrounded by people, and that's good for our vendors. All these craft vendors and food vendors and those people, they make a lot of money. And in some cases, this is their one event during the year they really want to work on and make their income from. And we're very proud of the fact that we hear that this is one of the top producing economic events for vendors.
Superfine mesquite wood, that's my favorite.
Well, I really enjoy the food court. There's some really good food out here that I get to sample once a year, and so that's one of the main things I really enjoy.
We're here with Mary Moncia of Alex's Fruits and Nuts, and you've been doing this for how many years?
About 4 to 5 years.
And a lot of this looks pretty healthy. You want to show me a couple items you have here?
Sure, we have the natural papaya here, which is no sugar, no sulfur, just honey. It's very good for your stomach, good for digestion.
Excellent, excellent.
And then we have the lemon roasted almonds. There's no salt, no oil, just lemon juice roasted for people that want to take care of their cholesterol and their high blood pressure, but it's very tasty. We have like more than 100 items to choose from.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
You know, I grew up here, and I remember the poppies everywhere, because, there was only 10,000 people in the entire valley. And so every field was full of them right about now. And now we actually have to drive to go see them. But, the fact that we have the preserve and that we're maintaining that for I guess, forever, I think is a testament to that we're holding on to the way the valley was in the beginning.
We are offering free chair massage to anybody who would like to take advantage of this. They instantly feel a lot better. Their hands are much looser and freer and lighter, and they feel awesome.
We've changed it in a number of ways. You can't stay the same, and we try to find that new thing, that new activity. Behind us today, we have our big dinosaur land. We have the antelopes on parade that have been decorated and painted. A lot of new things, little things, big things, but all of it enhances the event.
Well, Antelopes on Parade actually started in the United States in '99 in Chicago with cows. And I thought, Antelope Valley, we have antelopes. Well, we don't have antelopes, but we could. So I decided we would get some antelope statues and get some local artists to paint them. And we sort of unveiled them here at the Poppy Festival today.
Good. Good job, Sadie. Very nice.
And this is just one of the reasons people from Los Angeles will be coming up here. In a very short period of time, the idea of us having to go down there is going to disappear, because all of the new stuff, the creative stuff, the fun stuff, will be originating from the Antelope Valley. And I honestly believe that. The future for this valley is so bright, sometimes it's blinding.
Welcome to the Lancaster Outlook. I'm Wendy Williams. Well, the city is always looking to bring fun to the community, and the guy that makes that fun happen is Bob Green. He's the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Arts. Welcome.
Welcome, Wendy. I'm looking forward to talking to you about the exciting things going on in our department.
And you have so many things going on, lots of projects on the table right now. All right, give me some priority because I know you have a lot. What are some of the the really great projects that you're working on.
You know, the interesting thing is, even in a little bit more difficult economic environment, here we are looking at expanding a few parks, working on projects with the Prime Desert Woodland, relocating the museum, building Carter Park and Gilley Park in the downtown area.
Okay, let's
So,
back
wow.
up. Expanding what parks?
Well, we'll start off with building Gilley Park. That's really one of the anchors for the downtown area. We've got 2 of them that the Park Recreation and Arts Department is engaged in. The Gilley Park development is not too far from getting ready to go out to bid. That'll be a nice 15-acre park that anchors the downtown. It'll go approximately 1 block north of Lancaster Boulevard. And if you took Elm Avenue, it would run dead center right into the middle of the park. We're actually vacating the street where it would continue as it currently exists, and it'll end right there.
Now, isn't the idea then to incorporate that into the downtown area to make it kind of the center?
Absolutely it is. It gives people that are business people a place to go eat lunch during the day. It gives children that live around the neighborhoods a place to go play and utilize playgrounds and open turf areas and that type of thing. And at the same time, it'll provide amenities for all the people that live down here. We have a lot of seniors adjacent to that park that there will be a perimeter trail they can use to get exercise every day. And then on the other end of Elm Avenue on Lancaster Boulevard, that's the new museum that we're looking
Oh, I
at.
was hearing about that new museum. Go ahead. That sounds really interesting.
It's really an exciting thing. You know, unfortunately, we really have run great programs at the current museum, but people sometimes are not aware of those
Okay.
things.
So do you think it's because it's not located in the best spot?
I think so. I think
Okay.
this will be a lot more high profile as far as being in a unique location right on a busy street, and we're going to change that building. The current building is the old Wells Fargo building at Elm and Lancaster Boulevard. And by the time we're done with it, it should be an icon for the downtown area. Our goal is to make that really the kind of jumpstart the projects down there so that we really develop something that's very unique, very attractive, and that museum will be a place that people will also gather for functions, but have an opportunity to see things that they might not normally see.
Will it be the same as the old museum in that we'll have all kinds of nice exhibits that come in and out on a random basis, or is it going to be different than what we're accustomed to?
It's a great question because it's going to evolve. My feeling is we'll incorporate some of the existing things that we've always had and have offered at the current museum. But the new museum will offer us something different. We have a new curator who came to us via the Getty Museum.
Oh, excellent.
So he's very well qualified, has had a lot of experience dealing with antiquities and with art, and our goal is to make it somewhat more of a local treasure, because if you think about it, it's the only museum in North LA County. Otherwise, you would go to the Getty or Pasadena areas, and so now we'll have a museum in our backyard that we hope will continue to evolve and offer things that people would have to go to Los Angeles area typically to see.
Now, when we think of parks and recreation, we always think of the festivals and such like that, but there's a lot of sports that go on, and you have some national tournaments coming up in 2009. Tell me about them.
Yeah, you know, it's very unique what we do because we got involved in tourism. And you have to give Lyle Norton, the previous director of the department, absolutely. He did a great job while he was here for the previous 20 years. And I worked a considerable amount of time with Lyle and got involved in a number of these things. But national tournaments are something we've done for a while. And this year we'll have the Cal South Regional Soccer Tournament. Now, why is that important? Probably more so than it ever was before, because we'll bring 250 teams in here, and those teams will end up spending 1 week in our community.
So that's hotels,
exactly,
and restaurants, and we see the same thing with softball, don't we?
We do. We'll have 2 national tournaments that are coming up. We have one in 2009 that is the women's B tournament, or actually girls B tournament, I should say, 16 and 18-year-olds. We'll have approximately 50 teams. Sounds small, but again, they'll be here for a week.
Well, that's because those facilities were created as complexes way back when. There was a lot of foresight that went into that.
There really was, and you know, here we had an abundance of land, and somebody figured out a way to leverage that land into tourism dollars. It's not the most beautiful scenic place to come to possibly in Southern California, but if you look at it in regard to sports tourism, It's wonderful. Between that and movies, which we also have a film office in our department that facilitates that, along with the City of Palmdale, it's really worked very well for us in bringing new dollars into the community.
You mentioned the film department. How is it doing? I know that they say a lot of the movies are heading out of state because it's difficult to work in California, but in Lancaster, being the most friendly business community.
That's right.
How is our film industry?
You know, it's actually quite good. Pauline East, who does a fabulous job as a commissioner for the state of California in our office, really does a great job of scouting and facilitating people coming up for commercials, for feature films, for photo shoots, for still photos in magazines, that type of thing. Overall, each year she averages somewhere between $6 to $8 million that come in new revenue. And the studios, frankly, they spend quite a bit when they come in. They do everything to a high level, and cost is usually not a big issue. So she really makes sure it happens, and frankly, it benefits the entire valley, because she looks at not just Lancaster, but outside our area too, to facilitate that.
So many questions to ask you. You have a whole host of 2009 special events coming up. Can you list them for me?
Yeah, a little bit. I can tell you what's coming up in the immediate future. We'll have some holiday programs that we do annually, but then right after that, in the beginning of the January, we'll have the Martin Luther King Day celebration, which has been a community outreach program now, where we go out and help people clean up areas, do that type of thing, and the entire community gets involved. It's really a very good program. We'll follow that with our festival. You know, again, the Poppy Festival will be front and center for us.
So the economy isn't slowing you down a bit?
Well, we're adjusting to it to some levels, but at the same time, when you have an economy like this, people need things to stay in their own community, to do things, to get a chance to not drive and enjoy, you know, whatever they can for entertainment value's sake. It really works well. And here we are in our Performing Arts Center, where, of course, we offer a season of different performances and functions that really do help the community celebrate Lancaster as being a unique place to live.
Now, I've got to touch on this small little known place called the Prime Desert Woodlands. And a lot of people don't even know it exists, and it's just wonderful. Describe it.
You know, the way I explain this to people is to say, if you've lived in the desert most of your life, or if you've lived here even for a short period of time, odds are you probably never got out of your car and walked through the desert. You know, you live in a desert, but you haven't really experienced it. So the Prime Desert Woodland is a series of trails, and people have the opportunity to go through miles of trails now. We're probably somewhere getting close with a new expansion of another mile of trails that's currently underway. That expansion should be done in probably another 90 days.
Oh, excellent.
And so that, along with a pavilion that we have where groups can gather, because we have a number of school children that come through and do field trips where we have naturalists give explanations of what they can see and visit and experience in the desert. And they talk from an expert level, so they get a chance to really learn things that they may have just taken for granted. But it's a beautiful place, and here it is in the middle of our backyard, so to speak, surrounded by some homes, but at the same time, when you get out there in the afternoon, it's very quiet.
It's gorgeous.
And you see the rabbits and quail and even coyotes on occasion running through the area, and it's just really beautiful. Great experience.
It's so much on tap. I really need to tell our viewers to check out the website, because there's so much to know, and you really have to get a handle on it. You need to look at the website. But thank you for everything and all your information.
You're so welcome. My pleasure.
All right. You've been listening to Bob Green, the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Arts. This is the Lancaster Outlook.
Commissioner Brown? Here. Greer? Present. Johnson?
Present.
Vieira?
Present.
Vice Chairman Christ?
Present.
Chairman Augusta is absent.
Last month we did a,
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm sorry, you might want to take a motion to excuse the chairman.
Okay. Do we have a motion to excuse the chairman?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Last month, the Criminal Justice Commission decided to make a presentation to the officers, because we're having such good work done by the officers that we decided to make a presentation for what they called the Hook of the Month. This presentation is done by the Sheriff's Department. It's voted on by the captain in his command. So at this time, I'd like to make a presentation to Officer Scott. Would he join me up front, please? On April 14th, Deputy Christian Scott received information that there was a wanted individual from the state of Massachusetts in the area of 32nd Street West in the city of Lancaster. The fugitive was wanted for transportation of narcotics and possession of a firearm. With this information, Deputy Scott began making several patrol checks in the area. His persistent and proactive police work paid off when he observed the suspect drive off in a vehicle. In the area around 32nd Street and K4, he recognized the suspect. He immediately conducted a traffic stop and he detained him. Upon questioning, the suspect provided Deputy Scott with a false name and claimed to have no identification. Deputy Scott searched the suspect and found several credit cards, several false Social Security cards, and a California identification cards, which did not belong to the suspect and were later discovered to be stolen. With the strong knowledge of search and seizure laws, Deputy Scott used good investigation skills and searched the suspect's vehicle. Inside, he found counterfeit California identification cards and the suspect's picture on it. He also searched the backpack belonging to the suspect and found several stolen men's watches, camera equipment, miscellaneous jewelry, and a lock-picking device inside. Based upon the evidence found on the suspect's person inside his vehicle and in his backpack, Deputy Scott arrested the suspect for receiving stolen property, possession of false identification cards, and possession of a burglary tool, possession of stolen ID cards, and a fugitive from Massachusetts. And we'd like to thank you very much for what you do. Thank you.
I'd like to just add that Deputy Scott in his work is an example of the type of hardworking, loyal, intelligent deputy sheriff out there right now that is key to our efforts to lowering that Part 1 crime rate. He's among, I think, an entire group of deputies working patrol right now that have just absolutely been terrific in what they've done out there to reduce crime and I think encourage confidence from our community out there. So thank you, Deputy Scott. Thank you very much.
And we're going to change a few things around on new business and the consent calendar, but we're going to move the new business, the Palmdale High School Students Against Destructive Decisions, down to after new business 4. So we're going to start with the consent calendar, which is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye. We want to do the public business from the floor.
We have no public business from the floor.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to inquire if the audio-visual is ready to go, maybe we can go straight to the Palmdale High School when you get to new business. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. Are we ready to go?
They didn't tell us if we were ready to go.
Okay, then we will. Okay, thank you.
You believe it's ready to go? Okay, she'll check. We can take the other ones.
Thank you.
While we're waiting.
At this time, we're going to go to new business number 2, crime statistics. Jim?
weeks that we'll be talking about today will be weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 since our last meeting and presentation of information to the committee. What we see up here right now are the summary breakdowns of, and again, to talk about these data, it's important for the Commission to understand that these are events. They are not crime counts as would be included in the Uniform Crime Report. These are, it's important to understand that you could have multiple incidents of Part 1 crimes in a single event. What we did was we selected in the hierarchy of reporting crime the highest event, and that's where we placed it in our count. The whole idea is to be able to understand where things are at so that you can deploy your resources appropriately. So what we can see up here are the crime counts for those weeks, for violent crime, for property crime. One of the counts that we're working towards, but we're not there yet, is actually being able to match the arrest as well. And we're well on the road to that, but we're not quite there yet. And then at the bottom there, you see the number of unique reports that were taken in the city of Lancaster. Now, what you need to also understand with regard to unique reports is these are the report counts that comes out of their report system. There could be supplemental reports for each one of these, so there may actually be more physical reports than what you see there. These are just unique report numbers. The next thing that you see up here are the most active reporting districts. Now, one of the maps that I put in front of you right now is the reporting districts. You can see one of the things that I would encourage you to do with this, on your first meeting date, I gave you a notebook of information. I would encourage you to punch this information because we'll be referring to this with each report, and to take that information so that you can look at this and say, when you see that reporting district 1137 seems to be the most accurate, you can take a look at that and kind of place it on the map for yourself. These are the three most active reporting districts in week 19, which was last week. The part or 1137 and 1135 tied with 14 Part 1 crimes. 1127 came in right behind it. The previous week, week 18, 1127 led the pack with 17, followed by 1137 and 1126. Now, with the other information that we share, we have our 52-week comparison graph, which we talked about last week, where we take a look at the baseline and the baseline and what our trends are doing. You can see with regard to crimes that we have focused on recently, robbery, while it's trending up, the last couple of weeks have been down in that category. With regard to aggravated assault, we are trying to see the baseline on there. We are trending down in aggravated assault. When we take a look at burglary, we're just about, we're trending down a little bit, but we're just about dead even in that. Larceny is where we're showing the big progress right now. When you take a look at the baseline for robbery, we're well below the baseline and we're trending down. For auto theft, we're seeing a slight uptick in the trend. However, we're still well below the baseline, and particularly last week, we were pretty fortunate in that area. And of course, arson is a fairly low frequency crime for us. It's like murder and rape. We have a very low frequency
on the chart over a 52-week period. If you take a look at the second sheet that I gave you that says reporting or LASD reporting districts and U.S. Census block group overlay, one of the things that I did was I took the reporting districts for the Sheriff's Department follow fairly closely the census tracts for the U.S. Census. So one of the things that I did was I went down to the block level and I overlaid our block level information into the reporting districts, and it makes for kind of a nice map, especially when you're trying to drill down to figure out exactly what neighborhoods are problematic. Now, you also should understand that we use this information not only for the Sheriff's Department, but we also use it internally within the city to take a look at where there are certain problems and where things, where there are issues. So if you take a look at the color maps that I gave you, you can see week 18 and week 19 laid out there. On the right side, in the lower right-hand corner, you can see on the legend where you've got robbery, assault, domestic violence, burglary, residence burglary, other structure, larceny, and vehicle theft. And you can see those plotted on the map. One of the other things that you can see there in the lower left-hand corner is the density by block group, not just reporting district, but by block group within that reporting district. And that gives us a little clearer picture, particularly as we start to see these block groups pop up, these relatively small block groups. We can not only deploy the sheriff's resources then, but we can also deploy the city's resources to begin to work on some of the causative factors that are involved in this. And you can see, of course, this is one reason why I'm a little bit opposed to static maps, and we make things available for you on the city intranet, is static maps make it very difficult to zoom in and be able to see at the street level where things are at and those kinds of things. But I did want to give you kind of an idea of where we're at, where we're going with the way that we're looking at some of the information that we're getting right now. And that's about it for my report. Questions?
Jim, just real quickly, this is great information that gives you a great target, and you kind of answered the question, but having this, what do we do? What are we using it, or are we then working with the Sheriff's Department to then send resources in, or as a result of this information, or what are we doing with it?
Well, we have a management meeting every week, or the city manager does, and at the beginning of the management meeting, we present the information not only to the Sheriff's Department, but also to the department heads. And they're able to see it on the, in addition to that, we have on the city network, we have a folder set up on the SharePoint network, just like for the Criminal Justice Commission. We also have a folder set up for them that they can use within their particular areas the way that they see fit, and they can actually take a look at the information down to the street level as well.
Just for the commissioners' information, the mayor and Jim and Mark and myself, we recently had a meeting, and Jason, regarding this, and the intent and what's happening is that this information is being given to the Sheriff's Department, and actually we're trying to push it into greater use. And I know Axel is right on top of this, and it's going to be really useful information, as you can see, for us to keep track of what's going on in our city. So we're making some great progress, and thank you, Jim. We appreciate it.
Our focus, as Rob said, will be over the next couple of months to work with the Sheriff's Department to push this and provide this and partner with them in any way we can to, they're the experts, to get it as much and as frequently and where they need it.
And it appears that there's a baseline from which you're going to work from to see what is occurring and what changes it's making and how to attribute it to that, it appears.
The baseline, I calculated going back to 1997, and what we do is the baseline is set up to try to figure out what our weekly rate is, and then the whole idea is for us to stay below that baseline every week if we can, and ultimately that brings your crime rate down.
Thank you.
Do you have anything on here that shows the weather?
Shows the weather? No. Right now, we do have weather data available to us, but essentially what we'll be using that for is we have an analytical tool from SPSS called Model, or formerly called Clementine. And when we get our data finally arranged the way that we need it to be arranged, we will run the weather data along with the crime data and other types of data that we collect. We have a variety of data that's available to us from several vendors, and they will actually run all of that. And what we'll be looking for then will be basically predictors of crime, and that's where we get into what the city manager talked about at the last meeting of eventually being able to get into a little bit of predictive analytics.
When you talk about being able to predict it, are you talking about like school vacations, the weather?
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get until you run the data. One of the things, Alexandria, Virginia did this, and Alexandria found that the weather was a strong predictor for them. It's kind of it's a nice assumption and a nice hypothesis to say the weather will be a predictor for us, but we don't really know that until we run the data. And when we put a lot of other data in with it, like the school calendar and those kinds of things, then we may be able to get some things that say, maybe, and the whole idea is when we talk about predictive analytics, we're not talking about being able to say there's going to be a robbery on a certain street corner at a certain time, but being able to take information like this block group level information, we can say there's a higher probability for certain types of crimes in this block group in the upcoming time period of X as opposed to other areas. And if we let the Sheriff's Department know that, they can have their resources kind of deployed. Alexandria managed to pull themselves out of the top 3 or 4 in robbery and violent crime in the UCR and get themselves down into what they consider to be a relatively safe category. So we're trying to replicate that a little bit.
And when Jim says eventually, we're talking a few months, not years. I mean, that's the second component that we're looking at, the predictive component.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your report. I understand that everything's ready for the Palmdale High School students to go ahead with their presentation. So we can go back to new business 1.
Good morning. My name is Angela Hefter, and I'm an instructor for the Health Careers Academy at Palmdale High School. I'm also the Health Careers Academy coordinator, and I'm the lead HOSA advisor. We have brought to you today 3 students that competed at our state conference, our HOSA state conference. HOSA stands for Health Occupational Students of America. These students competed at the state level. They were able to compete against several other teams of community awareness, and they brought home the gold to our chapter, and they'll be representing the state of California at the national conference, which is going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. So they have put together a presentation that they're going to be presenting on, and it's SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions, and we're hoping in the future to do more things with this in the future. So I'm going to turn that over to them once they make sure everything is up and going. We had to make a little transition with our laptops. We have they have some media feed, and sometimes it's not compatible on all their laptops, even if you put it on a flash drive. So we appreciate the adjustment in the schedule for us, and I'm going to turn it over to them.
Thank you.
I'm Catherine Chan.
I'm Allison Kosh.
I'm Eric Lenorian.
And we are Students Against Destructive Decisions. SAD is an organization that works to deliver educational and prevention messages to people of all ages about different types of impairment. We created our own unique community awareness project to inform our community about the dangers of driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs and cell phone distractions. Our goal was to reach out to our peers before they made poor decisions and to decrease the number of impaired-related collisions amongst teenagers.
So here's some of the facts that we uncovered in researching for this project. Drugs driving doesn't usually get as much attention as drunk driving, but according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 13% of high school seniors reported driving high on marijuana, which is not at all far off from the 14% who reported driving drunk.
Driver inattention is the leading cause of car collisions. The most prominent distraction a driver may face is their cell phone. A conversation held by the driver will increase their likelihood of an accident by 1.3 times. Dialing or texting on the phone will increase this chance by nearly 3 times.
Motor vehicle crashes remain the #1 cause of death to people ages 15 to 20, and 28% of these youths involved in accidents had been intoxicated. Teenagers tend to have an attitude of invincibility to many dangers, such as impaired driving. We see people texting and talking on the phone every day and hear of accidents caused by driving impaired on the news nationwide. We wanted to reach out to our peers and spread the importance of these issues before prom and graduation came up. Unfortunately, we have real examples of what a terrible impact these kinds of decisions can have on people's lives.
On September 12, 2008, Jacob Hefter's life was taken in the Chatsworth Metrolink crash. Jacob was an outstanding HOSA member and presented the Every 15 Minutes project last year against drunk driving.
Johanny Lobos was a member of our Health Careers Academy and HOSA chapter. She was an outstanding volunteer, but most of all, she was my good friend. On September 23, 2008, she was just using the crosswalk when a drunk driver struck and killed her. That driver's irresponsible decision took my friend's life, and we were determined to try our best to ensure that no one we had the power to reach would make the same kind of bad decision that took our friends' lives.
This project required a lot of organization and planning. The first step was to obtain a sponsorship, which we did from the RX Paris law firm. Next, we needed to gather a wide range of materials. When we finally did obtain everything necessary to prove our point, we went through a lot of experimentation, trial and error to make sure our activity would go just right. We then created surveys with meaningful questions, distributed them, and created a high-impact PowerPoint presentation.
Long before our assembly, we began researching and drafting a survey to gauge our peers' choices and knowledge of driving decisions. Then, 2 days prior to our event, with the help of our HOSA chapter, we distributed and collected the survey to use in our presentation.
On January 30th, 2009, we presented our SAD project to 450 of our fellow students from freshmen to seniors. Thanks to our Paris law firm, through our educational pamphlets, awarding of t-shirts for correct answers to questions, and memento keychains, we were successful in promoting our HOSA chapter. On the back of our pamphlet, there's a pledge with which students could promise to themselves to avoid destructive decisions, which to our surprise, students committed to, signed, and returned to us without us asking of it.
During our assembly, we utilized the PowerPoint we created to not just say, oh, this is bad, don't do it, but to really educate our audience on the physiological effects of intoxicants and phone distraction. During the alcohol and drunk driving segment of our presentation, we showed the Every 15 Minutes video, which was produced by Jacob Hefter, which helped to drive home our point not only by its own sobering content, but by the fact that we could point out how its creator had his life snuffed out by destructive decisions.
Our hands-on activity demonstration consisted of volunteers from the audience to ride tricycles and ride on a simple course. Some wore impairment goggles, some texted on their cell phones, and some were unimpaired. With our demonstration, we were able to show that the slight loss of motor skills lost by the impairment goggles and cell phone distractions caused our volunteers to veer out of their lanes, ignore signals, and to have collisions with other tricycles and pedestrians. Through this demonstration, we were able to show the audience the bigger picture, that if the tricycles were too difficult to control while being impaired or distracted, getting behind the wheel of a 2-ton motor vehicle under such conditions was out of the question.
We had 3 guest speakers, Mike Viscone and Doug Sweeney, who are former California Highway Patrol officers. They shared their experience of tragedies concerning impaired driving. Our 3rd guest speaker, Dr. Hadavuti, an EMS doctor, spoke about the success you could lead in life when you do not make destructive decisions.
We arranged media coverage of our event with our local newspaper and local television news. And now we'd like to show you our television news coverage.
Today, a group of Palmdale High students, with the help of their teacher, took a stand against destructive behavior, and 450 of their peers listened. SoCal News reports.
It's very difficult because it's been just a short time that our son has passed away, and the feeling of this is very powerful.
Angela Hefter and her husband looked on through tears at some of the 12th graders Mrs. Hefter teaches. These seniors warned fellow students about destructive decisions.
It only takes, a split second for you to make a bad decision, whether it's texting and driving or, picking up your phone while you're driving or drinking and getting in the car impaired, and that could ruin somebody's life.
The Hefters know this lesson all too well. Their teenage son Jacob was one of 25 people killed in a Chatsworth Metrolink crash September 12, 2008. The engineer was reportedly text messaging when he ran a red light.
The decision of that engineer took Jacob's life.
Jacob went to school with these teens and was in the same healthcare academy program.
That affected me personally, and I think it affected everyone in the academy.
Along with another student, Johanny Lobos, who was killed only a few weeks after Jacob.
All Johanny was doing was using the crosswalk, and somebody hit her and drove off who was drunk.
Now 8 seniors are using these tragedies to make a point.
Think about the consequences before you do something like that.
Through speeches and exercises, students attending the assembly walked and rode around on tricycles with impairment goggles to demonstrate the dangers of drunk driving. And even though it is difficult and personal, the Hefters say they don't mind being an advocate for this cause.
If we can do one thing to save somebody's life, then that's what our goal is.
Jacob Hefter was an organizer of the Every 15 Minutes demonstration against drunk driving when he was at Palmdale High. Students and Hefter's families say they consider today's program part of his legacy.
Some definite cons we faced while we organized this event was that it was still a sensitive matter to address. We had major technical issues with different Microsoft versions and formatting the video interview to get it to work correctly on PowerPoint. We also had to deal with few teens who felt they were virtually invincible and had really stubborn attitudes towards the subject. We had one SAD coordinator who could not attend the HOSA conference, and we also had to deal with the pressure of being seniors with our futures in mind.
We really felt our project succeeded in bringing the community together to make a positive impact. Because of the events we described before, we had tremendous support from our Health Cares Academy and HOSA chapter. They really helped us draw some positive impact from terrible tragedy and to carry on our friends' legacy of community inspiration and education. We are in the process of producing a video from our presentation, which we will distribute throughout the wider community to spread our message of responsibility. We were able to produce a creative and original presentation that we informed our audience and was a learning experience for us as well. One time during the presentation that we knew we had changed perspectives was during the open forum that we held. One girl told us how her mother had warned her it was unsafe to text and drive, and she had ignored her. But after participating in our assembly, she was determined to make better choices in the future. Thank you.
And that is our presentation.
Do you mind if we ask you a couple questions? You said you made a presentation in front of 450 students, and you had them sign a pact. How many of those participated out of the 450?
survey.
Uh-huh.
The survey, we didn't really require them to, sign that little pledge on the back, but just there was a few students who did it and brought it back to us, of their own volition, and we thought that was pretty cool.
Do you have plans to go to the other high schools?
Through our promotional video that we're going to make, RX Paris is going to distribute the video to high schools and deliver it for us.
If I could add to that, sir, we have the Health Careers Academy. This is a project that we'll continue on with every year. So as these students are all going off to college in the next few months, the coordinator, then the next group that will come up, they will probably do more advocacy on the benefit of this program and getting it out throughout the community schools and the junior high schools.
This is just great, what you guys are doing. I mean, it's a standard that all of the students should follow. I think it's just great. You guys have any?
Yeah, I just wanted to commend really all four of you, and especially a mom that's just recently lost a son, and to be a part of this is inspirational. So I appreciate you being here today and leading these students. And all three of you are amazing in your presentation. To have that memorized, I can't think of it being any more professional or doing a better job than what you've done. And just really appreciate too. I know there's a personal nature to this as well, losing a friend. And so I really appreciate that. I think it's excellent what you're doing, and no doubt this will be something that will grow and spread to other high school campuses and make a difference and save lives. So thank you for coming today.
And if I could just take a moment to echo on those comments as well. I can't say that, or what I can say is that I'm so proud, of Palmdale High School, of you students, of what you do, of what you represent. We're just so proud of you, again, the school, the community, and all that you do. And I know it's not easy to come up here, and especially in light of the family and friends that you lost, to make those presentations and those comments. But the difference that it is going to make within the school and the community is just commendable. So thank you for your time and for your hard work.
I'd like to say the same thing. Thank you. It's always terrific to see young people involved in something that's so worthwhile. Often you hear that young people don't care enough, they don't want to be involved. Clearly what you've done is got engaged in something that you're very interested in, that's close to your heart, and you obviously have a passion for. So thank you to all of you, anyone who participates with you, your supervisors, and of course the sponsors that have helped you put this together. It's a terrific program.
We have some certificates for you. I'm going to ask the superintendent of schools to come down and